Well, today is Friday, the 12th of September. I hope you are doing well. Debated not doing a call this week. Frankly, the news has just not had me in much of a mood to talk about interest rates or the market. But I know a number of people are anticipating this information. They use it with their clients. So I'm going to go ahead and do an update for where we are at. We have seen a nice trend downward in rates. We'll go ahead and dive into the numbers from Mortgage News Daily. The national average for a 30-year fixed rate loan is 6.29%. That is exactly where we were last Friday. You go back a month, we were at 6.58, so we're down a little over a quarter of a point so far this month. We talked about this on last week's call because we have not moved from an interest rate standpoint. And y'all, that's actually very good news because we got a lot of information this week. Remember that what gave us this lower trend in interest rates, this trend downward, is weak employment numbers. Well, we've had even more weak employment news since then. Jobless claims are unexpectedly high. Those came out today. We had massive revisions to the 12 months ending in June. Over 900,000 jobs were overreported. Those have now been pulled out with actual numbers. So the BLS obviously has a big job ahead to get more accurate accounting, to get greater participation in the surveys that they send out. So I'm confident that that's going to occur with the changes that we've seen and the focus that we have on that. But this week we had producer price index come out on Wednesday. It was actually down, y'all. We saw a decline in wholesale prices month over month. We were down 0.1%. We were expected to have a 0.3% rise. So that was a significant miss to the downside, which is what you want to see on an inflation report. Year over year PPI went from 3.4% down to 2.8%. So that report was much better than expected from a wholesale inflation standpoint. And if you're going to see the impact of tariffs, you would probably want to see it start happening there. But that's not what we saw. Yesterday, always the day after PPI, we saw the consumer price index, CPI. It was actually hotter than expected on the month over month. 0.4% up month over month, was anticipated to be up just 0.3%. So that was hotter than expected. But the year over year was 2.9%. That's exactly where it was expected, y'all. That was replacing 2.7%. So there was nothing in that CPI report, even though it was a little bit hotter than we would have liked to see, or a little bit hotter than expectations. It wasn't sufficiently so to put any fear in the market that the Fed's not going to do what they're going to do at the next meeting, which is on the 17th of September, where the Fed is 100% likely, according to the CME FedWatch tool, Fed futures are pricing in a 100% chance of a quarter point cut at the 9/17 meeting. They're also pricing in a 7.5% chance of a half point cut. Y'all, we talked at length a couple of calls back, a couple of videos back, about the fact that when the Fed does what they're expected to do, then the premium for what the aggressive stance that they might have taken gets priced back out. So if the Fed moves a quarter as expected and they don't make any news with their commentary after that meeting, then we're going to see rates price out that half point expectation that was built in, that little bit, that 7.5% likelihood. So if all other things being equal, if the Fed only moves a quarter with no additional news, rates are going to pop a little bit higher following the Fed meeting. Not significantly so, but a bit. Enough to where I have to explain it to folks when they wonder why it didn't go down. So here's the good news though, y'all. When you look to the end of the year, the Fed meeting on the 10th of December, there's now an 81% chance of the Fed being 0.75 point lower going into that December 10 meeting. That's huge news, y'all. Well, it's not news. It's been there. It's priced into Fed futures. But we could be looking at the first quarter of next year with rates significantly lower than they are now. There's a lot of strategies around that, y'all. Folks are always asking me, should they wait? Well, frankly, it depends on whether you're purchasing or whether you're refinancing. Now that we are past the PPI and the CPI for this month, this now opens up maybe it's not the worst strategy to consider waiting on a potential refi, or at least getting one in process, but maybe timing your lock later in the year. However, keep in mind that as we near these Fed meetings, the market fully prices in the expectation of these cuts, right? They'd rarely get more than a meeting ahead. But once we get past the meeting on the 17th, we will start looking at the news. We'll start looking for CPI, PPI, and the BLS jobs numbers for that month to see what the next meeting in October is going to look like. And then we'll immediately start looking at the following meeting as well and using the news of the day to determine where those are headed. So you can be on both sides of the refi fence on whether you should wait to lock. However, on a purchase, entirely different news, y'all. On a purchase, this is your Goldilocks moment, because as we enter into a reduction or a more accommodative Fed position, that's going to be big news. And all of the buyers that are currently sitting on the fence are going to be in the market and you're going to be competing against them. And the loss of negotiating power with that seller, both with regard to price and concessions, immediately goes away. Right? We switch to a seller's market abruptly when we see an accommodative Fed. So keep that in mind. The savings that you might reap from a rate standpoint are immediately eclipsed by the front end costs that you're going to have increasing on those purchased dollars. So just bear that in mind. Refinances are a thing. There is a lot of merit to buying now before this news becomes prevalent throughout the buyer pool. Because once it is, you're competing with those folks. There's a lot of wisdom in buying now, locking now, and then if rates dramatically improve prior to closing, every lender out there has got a way to help you. They don't want to lose you out of their locked pipeline because rates have dramatically dropped. And secondly, if you do close at a rate and then a year from now rates are lower, well then hallelujah, refinance it. You'll save some more money. But at least you're in your house and you bought it right. So be considering that strategy, y'all. I've got all the graphics to show you. I can walk you through mathematically the cost of waiting. So if that's something that is of interest to you, feel free to give me a call. We have all the tools to do that, and I'm always, I'm a nerd when it comes to numbers. I'm happy to walk you through them. Stay safe. Hug your kiddos. It's been a rough week, y'all. Prayers for our country that we can heal from some of the evil that has been so pervasive. And as we look forward to better times ahead, stay blessed, stay safe. We'll talk to you next week.